I recently visited the South African Airways Museum at Rand Airport, Germiston, just outside Johannesburg. This is where you'll find a retired Boeing 747-244 ZS-SAN. This craft was nicknamed Libombo. On the 5th of March 2004, this airplane touched down at the Rand Airport Museum in Germiston, just outside Johannesburg, never to fly again. Captain Dennis Spence, who flew Libombo on a last flight, recounts the landing. The aircraft was totally airworthy and every component was serviceable. It even had toilet paper in all the toilets. This craft was ordered by South African Airways in 1968. The purchase price was 17 million. It was delivered in 1971. One of its memorable and special flight was in 1995, the 24th of June, Saturday afternoon, when it performed a fly past over the Ellis Park Stadium for the Rugby World Cup final match, which was won by the Springboks. Its last service was in November 2003, the 24th, from Lagos to Johannesburg. 31 years, 11 months, 14 days, years in service. 107,689 hours and 56 minutes, hours flown, and carried 6 million passengers. I've always asked myself what makes the planes to be retired, and I got the answer today.
Reach the end of its cycles because the constant pressurization and depressurization of the fuselage causes cracks to start spreading all around the aircraft. Wherever, do you see those dots?
Which oh yes, yeah.
Yes, those dots are rivets. Those dots are rivets which connect panels of the airplane together. Now, if the plane keeps expanding and contracting, where those holes are, cracks start to form everywhere around the airplane. And once those cracks reach a certain level, the plane is no longer allowed to fly, because the more cracks there are, the more likely it is to break apart during flight, and that can cause a major disaster. So after around 20,000 cycles, they ground the flight permanently because it's deemed no longer safe for flight.
Do you think they remove some of the parts which are still functioning well to
probably. Stuff like the engines are very useful. They can be repurposed. But except for the engine, I'm not really sure about any other parts that are repurposed. Maybe the seat.
So what about the cockpit? Can it be? Do you think there are components that can be reused? Or
there's no point, because the cost benefit doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Plus every airplane cockpit is different. The A380 cockpit is different from the 747 cockpit. There are differences. So it makes no sense repurposing an entire cockpit and bring it to another plane. A plane like this one, it requires more than just a service. You have to essentially rebuild the entire body, because this body has micro cracks everywhere. So essentially you have to take out the entire skin, put in a new skin. So we're just building a new plane from scratch.
Yeah.
So there's no point.
There's no point.
You just leave it here.
Okay.
let's say there's an event where there's an emergency during takeoff, and the plane is filled to the brim with fuel. Let's say an engine burns out or something. Now during that time, the pilot will just if one engine burns out, it's fine. We can just continue climbing and climbing and climbing, because planes like the 747 are designed to even run with even 2 engines dead. But because an engine is dead and we do not know the severity of the situation, we're going to have to find a place to land. Now the problem is we have to land with a plane full of fuel, and all this extra weight will make landing extremely difficult. Now for situations like this, planes have a system where the pilot in the cockpit can just pull a lever and dump fuel to reduce the weight of the plane so that it's safer for landing. This plane, planes like this, dump fuel at a rate of around 1.3 tons a minute, or 1,300 kilograms of fuel a minute, goes overboard to try to reduce the weight of the plane. Because if it lands when it's too heavy, there's a high chance of failure, and the landing is just more difficult, because the heavier you are, the more runway you need to stop. And during emergency land, you want to be able to land on any runway. So we dump fuel so that we are lighter, we can stop at a shorter distance, and landing is generally safer.
Yeah, what do you understand about the tires of the plane?
These tires are often filled with nitrogen, because nitrogen is inert, meaning if it bursts, there's a low chance of it catching fire or making fire spread. Nitrogen also puts out fires.
Okay.
Yeah. These engines are very strong and can withstand 200 landings.
You mean the tires?
Yeah, the tires, which is very insane, because when these tires touch the ground, the plane is moving around 250 kilometers an hour. That's the speed when they touch down. And if you ever watch videos of a plane touching down, you know when these wheels touch the ground, there's a lot of smoke behind it.
Yeah.
Because it goes from still to 250 instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it chills a bit of the tire, but it's designed to handle that wear and tear for around 200 landings.
Oh, you mean it's 200 landings?
Yeah. Average.
Okay, so after every 200 landings, they must be replaced.
Yeah, just regular maintenance, just change out the tires. The first method of planes used to slow down is the brakes on these tires. When the plane touches down, the pilot in the cockpit presses down on the brake pedals, because there are often brake pedals down there, and then which triggers hydraulics over here. They clamp on it's almost like the way your car stops.
Yeah.
But this one is much more powerful, since it's meant to stop a plane. The second method is reverse thrust from the engine.
The what?
Reverse thrust from the engines.
Okay.
When the plane touches down, normally these engines suck in air from here and then they push it backwards to push the plane forward. But when it lands, the plane retracts it. The plane engages a reverse thrust. Basically, this plane, its reverse thrusters have been engaged. Basically, it redirects air, so instead of going backwards, it goes forward. And because of Newton's third law, if the air is being pushed that way, the airplane will want to slow down. So instead of the engines making it go faster, the engines will help it slow down. That's the second method, reverse thrust.
Okay.
The third method we can't see because it's above the wings.
Yeah.
But basically, like above the wings, there's sort of spoilers or air brakes. When they land, they basically go from flat to pointing upwards, and this acts like a sort of mini parachute by increasing the drag. you increase the amount the plane slows down by. Most planes when they land, they do all of these three things at the same time: brakes, spoilers, reverse thrust, to slow down as fast as possible. I want to talk about is, why do we have to sit down during takeoffs and landings? The reason for this is very simple. During takeoffs and landings, first of all, those are the points in flight where accidents are most likely to happen. Takeoffs, an accident could occur. Landing, an accident could occur. And if an accident does occur, we want everyone to be strapped with a seat belt, because that ensures their highest likelihood of survival. Because if you are walking, there's a high chance you're going to die. Second of all, during takeoffs and landing, it's often a very bumpy ride, so you are prone to falling down and hitting your head and injuring yourself. So that's why they always advise you to sit down during takeoffs and landings and put on your seatbelt until you reach cruising altitude, where you can unstrap and just walk freely around the cockpit, around the airplane.
Yeah, so why do we have to switch off our cell phones during the flight?
The cockpit uses radios to communicate with the ground control down below, and the radio signals they use to communicate is the exact same as the radio signals we use in our phones. So that means if we have our phones on, we will interrupt the radio signal between the pilots and the ground, and interrupting radio contact between them is never a good idea, because there has to be a constant stream of communication between the ground control and the pilots. So that's why they always advise you to switch off your phone when you're in a plane, or switch on airplane mode. Another thing I like to talk about is the emergency gas mask, which drop down from the ceiling above whenever there's a depressurization event. Let's say a window blows out or the door blows out and all of the air is sucked out of the cabin. When that happens, oxygen masks drop down, and you are advised to put it on, because without it you will lose consciousness very quickly. However, those oxygen masks only last around 12 minutes. Now you may be asking, why such a short period of time, like 12 minutes? The reason why it's so short is because 12 minutes should be enough time for the pilots to descend from cruising altitude, or 35,000 feet, all the way down to 14,000 feet, to the point where we can be able to breathe normally. Basically, they're giving us enough oxygen for they're giving us the bare minimum amount of time for the pilots to descend down to safe altitude, so that we can be able to survive.